February 25th, 2006, a 50 over Deodhar Trophy game between Central Zone and West Zone. Central Zone bowled out for 180, and this should have been an easy chase, right? Except it was a spinning track. Cut to the second innings, and West Zone find themselves in a bit of a pickle. 141 for 7, with Murli Karthik and Piyush Chawla wreaking havoc against the batsmen. And two debutants out in the middle, both of them a part of the current India tour to Australia. A young Rohit Sharma who scored an unbeaten 31, and a young southpaw, a left-hander by the name of Ravindra Jadeja, who got 26 not out of 27 deliveries. These two stitched a 40-run partnership to take West Zone across the line. Earlier in the day, this cheeky left-arm spinner had also taken 2 wickets in 7 overs and had given away just 34 runs. And time again, this is what we've seen him do over a decade of Indian cricket. This is what he's come and done in most of the games that he's played. He's bowled well, he's batted well, and of course he has fielded well. I'm talking about India's most underrated legend in Test cricket, and that's Ravindra Jadeja. Here's a look at Ravindra Jadeja's incredible career, why he's been so successful, and what it is that differentiates him from so many of the others. But before we get into it, hit that subscribe button. Now, having bowled in tandem with Ravichandran Ashwin over the last decade of Indian cricket and absolutely dominated Test matches at home and also a bit away, it's easy to see why someone like Ravindra Jadeja tends to get overshadowed because of the magnitude of Ravichandran Ashwin's achievements. In fact, we are blessed to have witnessed an era where India has produced its two ever greatest spin bowling all-rounders in Ravindra Singh Jadeja and also Ravichandran Ashwin. But Jaddu's contributions have been no less. He's the 5th highest wicket taker in India's Test cricketing history. He has the best average for a left-arm spinner who's got a minimum of 200 Test wickets. Add to that, he has a Test batting average of 35.6. He's got 4 Test centuries, 20 250s, and also in cricket's 150-year-old rich history, he's the second fastest ever to the double of 3000 plus test runs and 300 plus test wickets. So here's a look at Ravindra Jadeja and what sets him apart from so many of his counterparts across the world. And the best place to start is of course his primary skill in Test cricket, and that's the left arm orthodox that he's bowled for all these years. He's been extremely successful not only at home but even in a few Sena countries, and everyone talks about Jadeja's tireless action, how he's a workhorse, how he can keep repeating that action, how efficient it is. But even beyond this, there is a lot of street smartness and technique that comes into what makes Jadeja such a successful bowler. In an interview with Bharat Arun, who was India's former bowling coach, Bharat talks about how Jadeja makes use of the crease efficiently, and that's what sets him apart from so many other bowlers. The fact that his action is so simple and repeatable means that it makes it very easy for someone like Jadeja to use the crease, and what comes into play there is angles. And this is the first of the 3 things that we'll get into that separates Jadeja the bowler from so many of the others. It's the angle, the release points, and the manner in which he uses the crease itself. Now, Jadeja is one of those few bowlers who consistently mixes up his release points from different parts of the crease itself. Sometimes, as you'll see in this clip, he comes extremely close to the stumps at the point of release, whereas in other occasions, he's very wide of the crease while releasing the delivery itself. And what this does from a batting perspective is that it really confuses the batter around which line to play, especially when Jadeja comes from very close to the stumps and releases the ball from very close to the umpire. What happens is that the batsman thinks that the ball is coming at the stumps and he tends to play inside the line of the ball. You'll also see this in a lot of dismissals that Jadeja has gotten over the years, where the batsman has tended to play for the ball around the middle and leg stump, but it's pitched and it's spun and hit the top of off stump. In the case where Jadeja bowls wide from the crease, what tends to happen is that a lot of batters think that the ball is outside the off stump and will probably straighten or spin away, which means that they can leave the ball alone. But you'll also see that what has actually happened is because of Jadeja's natural variation, the ball tends to go on with the angle of his arm itself, thereby balls on even 4th or 5th stump tend to hit the off stump itself. The second thing, of course, that works in Jaddu's favor is his variation of pace and how well he controls the line and length of these deliveries. Jadeja's action is extremely repeatable, and one thing that this allows him to do is bowl the same kind of pace or different kinds of pace with the same action itself. You'll often see Jadeja bowling deliveries around the mid 80s, but you'll also see him bowl some deliveries that are close to the 100 km/h mark, all of this with the same action. This of course catches the batsman off guard, and it's tougher to come down to the wicket or go back in your crease against such a kind of bowler. And lastly, one more thing that is very lethal and works in Jaddu's favor is his release of the ball from an arm point of view, right? There are many cases, as you'll see in this footage right here, where Jaddu is able to release the ball extremely round arm, and there are a lot of occasions where Jaddu, as he normally releases the ball, from a higher arm release. And this essentially helps Jadeja work with 2 kinds of spin, the first one being top spin or overspin and the second one being side spin. Now in the case of overspin, spin where Jaddu is more high arm in his release, what happens is that he tends to release the ball with his fingers rolling over the front of the seam. What this does is causes a lot of forward rotation of the ball, and this in turn leads to dip and also extra bounce. And in the case of a round arm release, Jaddu almost undercuts the ball, which means that the seam is almost parallel at the point of release to the surface of the pitch itself. What this does is creates two kinds of variations. One where the ball sort of lands on the seam and spins away more drastically. And second where the ball's leather part hits the surface of the pitch, thereby causing it to go straight on with the angle. And compared to a lot of the other left arm bowlers of this generation, Jadeja is also the highest in terms of percentage to get LBWs and bowls. And this has got to do so much with the fact that Jaddu is such a stump to stump bowler. If you'll see this graph here, you'll see that Jadeja is the highest in terms of percentage dismissals of LBW and bowled as compared to other left arm spinners of this generation itself. And here's also the pitch map from a couple of prominent performances that Jaddu has put in over the last couple of seasons. First being the India vs Australia BGT in 2023 where he got a 7-wicket haul, and the second being the third test match in India vs New Zealand series. In both of these cases, you'll see the pitch map and how accurate Jadeja is when it comes to hitting the stumps or being extremely close to the stump. And the point that always comes up with Indian spinners is that they're usually home bullies and haven't done well in overseas conditions, but this is not necessarily the case with Jadeja. In fact, in the Sena countries, especially Australia and South Africa, Jaddu's done extremely well with the ball. You'll see here that Jaddu has an impressive average of 28 in Australia and 25.6 in South Africa. Now, another facet of Jaddu's gameplay is how he bats, how he takes the attack to the opposition, but at the same time is also someone who's extremely reliable in his defense and can wear out bowling attacks and play those long, impactful innings. And for Jaddu, it's been a consistent rise in his batting ability, right? Jaddu, when he started out, was not that great a batsman, at least at the international level. But ever since 2019, that record has improved drastically, not just in home series, but also his impact away, the kind of innings that he's played, and just his overall performance as a batter. In fact, in the Sena countries, barring South Africa, Jaddu has done extremely well in England, Australia, as well as New Zealand. For someone who usually comes into bat at number 7, Jaddu has an impressive average of 50 plus in Australia. His average is almost 30 in England, and he also has 100 there. Not only that, he also has an impressive average of 35.6 in New Zealand itself. Since 2019, Jaddu's also been in the top 5 run scorers for India in Test cricket. And I'd just also like to highlight a couple of these innings that he's played. First being the Edgbaston 2022 100 that he got, where he came in when the score was 98 for 5, and from there he stitched a partnership and scored 104. And of course, more recently, you'll remember his contribution at the Gabba, where India were looking at a follow-on, but Jadeja came and stitched a beautiful partnership with KL Rahul. There too, he walked in a pressure situation at 74 for 5, with India needing to get to 246 to avoid the follow-on. There too, Jadeja managed to get a crucial 77, and not only did he bat well, but he also batted time, which ensured that India could eventually avoid that follow-on and save the test match. And coming back to his consistency itself, Jaddu, as you'll see from his cumulative averages over the years, has also been a batsman who's constantly improved his game, and he's gotten better and better with each year of Test cricket. Now, of course, Jaddu has played 114 innings, and a stark difference is clearly visible in his batting improvement in either half of these innings. In his first 57 innings, Jaddu had 100 and just 9 50s, which means that he would get a 50 plus score every 5.7 innings. Whereas if you look at his last 57 innings, he's gotten 300s and 13 more 50s. This means that Jaddu now gets a 50 plus score every 3.5 innings. And this ties into the next point, which is why India have preferred Jaddu as an all-rounder, especially in overseas conditions, right? Not only has he done well with the ball, but he's also improved his batting so much that he usually tends to get a preference over someone like Ravichandran Ashwin or even Washington Sundar in the current scenario. But the final point, and something that a lot of people tend to forget about all-rounders, is how good they can be on the field. And Jadeja is one such player. He's easily one of India's greatest ever fielders to have graced the cricketing field. His speed, his throwing accuracy, the strength of his arm, and also just the safe houses that he is with his hands ensures that he's more than a handy person on the field. And a lot of times, this fielding skill alone is what trumps him and brings his selection into the squad. And Jadeja is not young by any means. He's already 36 years old, and even now he's easily one of the fittest and quickest fielders on the pitch. And for all of these reasons, Jadeja is not only a great all-rounder, but one of the most complete cricketers of this era. And of course, it goes without saying that he's a captain's dream, and correctly so. He was also coined the term rock star by Shane Warne, and also Sir Ravindra Jadeja by MS Dhoni. Even amongst the prominent all-rounders of this generation, you'll see that Jaddu not only has the second best batting average but also the third best bowling average for players who've gotten 150 plus wickets and 1500 plus runs. And this is all there is to it, right? Ravindra Jadeja has contributed for India in Test cricket across all three departments, and that makes him an extremely rare and generational player, not just for India but also for the world of cricket itself. Whatever people say, Ravindra Jadeja will go down as one of the legends of India's home dominance and also a part of the golden decade of Indian Test cricket. This has been our video on Ravindra Jadeja and why I think that he's the most underrated legend in Indian cricket. Thank you so much for watching. All of our links are in the description. We also have an email newsletter, so definitely sign up for that. Don't miss out on our emails. We're also going to be doing lives on every day of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, so stay tuned for that. That's all from me. Peace.